Sarah Ingham is in for a rude awakening. She is in for the shock of her entire life, her whole entire life, and I feel that she needs a bit of an education in certain business practices. So today I'm going to tell her just that, because she responded to this question: when are you coming home to pay your tax bill? It's a fair question. They owe tax. It's coming out of their ears right now. But Sarah, she knows absolute best, doesn't she? She's a business brains of the operation, isn't she? Definitely. She responded with this: we don't have a tax bill to pay, but if everything you and the trolls are saying is true, tax evasion, fraud, etc., then surely the police will be waiting for us on arrival in the UK and our home and assets will be seized, right? So maybe just sit tight and watch for that happening. And when it doesn't, you can all gather and come up with a new narrative. How does that sound? So Sarah, we have a little bit of an issue here, because what you're doing is not making sense, right? What you're doing is not listening to everybody in the world, right? You are, however, listening to Chris Ingham. That's never a good sign, right? If you're taking Chris's word over everybody in the entire world, you've got issues. So you say you don't have a tax bill. Well, this little figure says otherwise. See that bit there where the arrow is pointing to? HMRC. That's corporation tax. It says right in brackets there, corporation tax / VAT. And this bit here, the £91,429.84, that is the corporation tax from HMRC. That is how much you owe HMRC in tax. So this person replied to Sarah and said, sweetie, your accounts are public. Your liquidation is public. It's all clearly listed on Companies House. You are insolvent, not dissolving. You owe HMRC £91,000. You owe your payback loan. You owe directors' loans. It's purely factual, not a narrative. It just makes you look naive or stupid in denying it when it's literally in black and white. And that's very well put. Excellently put, whomever you are. I love that response. Sarah replied to that. It just gets worse for her. Shows how little you know about business, number one. Number two, the fact that you are even interested in this is creepy as fuck. No, it's not, Sarah, because it is public record and it's open to the public for public consumption. That's not creepy at all, because it's there for a reason. All right. And number three, the fact that you set up this fake account just to comment this is even creepier. You seem like a balanced and happy individual. Sarah goes on to say, Catherine, in quotation marks, sweetie, we chose to close the business down and haven't traded in the UK for over a year. All your comment and all the others like yours show is that you know nothing about how businesses work, all justifying it by saying it's public record. So what? Why does that make it your business? Don't you have anything better to do? We haven't done anything at all that millions of other businesses do when they close down their business. Really? And like I said, if what you say, what you and every other Joe Blogs is saying is true, then we will be in big trouble over the next 6 months, won't we? So just sit and watch. She's very cocky for someone who's really into this shit. Okay, so now Sarah clearly, I think she knows all about business and the fact that her business is shutting down and people all over the world do it all the time. So I'm going to give her a little lesson. Now, I personally am not an accountant, I'm not a liquidator, I'm not an insolvency practitioner, I am nothing of any of those, and I know very little, right? However, what I do know is what I've read, right? And these are undeniable facts, right? They are undeniable. So this is the listing that was put in the London Gazette regarding their insolvency recently. I've already gone over it, but here it is again. It shows the Ingham Family Limited, but most important of all, for purposes of this video, is type of liquidation: creditors, right? A creditor's liquidation, a creditor's voluntary liquidation, that's what it's called. And we're going to have a look to see what that means right now. Okay, so a creditor's voluntary liquidation, a CVL, is a formal insolvency process where directors of an insolvent company, that's the most important part there, Sarah, an insolvent company. Do you know what insolvent means? Am I going to have to go and look that up for you? So insolvent very simply means unable to pay debts owed. That's right. That's what that means. Okay, Sarah? So don't have any delusions. It means that your company is insolvent. Right? Can't afford to pay debts. So as we go back to this, it says a formal insolvency process where directors of an insolvent company voluntarily choose to close the business with the agreement of the shareholders and the involvement of creditors. Now, the confusion you have, Sarah, is that you are voluntarily doing it. So in your mind, you are doing it because you want to do it, and that's the process. However, what you're confusing is this with another process we'll get into in a second. It says it's a way for companies that cannot pay their debts to be wound up, managed by a liquidator chosen by creditors, and their assets sold to pay off debts. So basically, a creditor's voluntary liquidation, which, as we showed before, is what you are under, right, means that you do not have enough money or assets to pay your debts for your company, right? Hence why people are saying that you have no money and you are getting, you're in trouble with the taxman, etc., right? Now, I'm going to have a look here because there's another type of liquidation, which is a member's voluntary liquidation, which may be what you're getting confused with, or maybe you've never heard of it, who knows, right? But I'm going to show you the difference between the two. So a creditor's voluntary liquidation, a CVL, and members' voluntary liquidation, an MVL, are two types of voluntary liquidation, but they differ in their primary purpose. CVL is for insolvent companies, as we learned earlier, that means you have no money, where directors declare the company cannot pay its debts within a certain time frame, while MVL is for solvent companies, that's the opposite of insolvent, which means you have money, companies where members, shareholders decide to wind up the business. So that is the one that you think you're doing, right? The MVL, as you see there, it's where you just decide to wind up the business. You decide to divvy up your assets and things, but you have assets, you have money, right? That's the difference. You, Sarah, are under a CVL, which is the opposite, which means you do not have money, right? See the difference? the thing that a lot of people are getting confused with, especially your defenders and yourself, in fact, is the voluntary bit. Just because it says it's voluntary doesn't mean to say it was necessarily what you wanted to do. It's the only option you had. That's basically what it is. It's a creditor's voluntary liquidation, which means it is to pay off the creditors because you can't afford to do so. Right. So now we've learned what the difference is between CVL and MVL and what Sarah needs to know. Sarah, I would urge you to go and check everything about this. Ask your accountant, right? I know you probably don't have a good relationship with your accountant. You owe them money, I think. Well, it said they owed them £1. So I don't know, it might be more. Anyway, just ask them. I'm sure they will tell you what is what, right? I know you're in a bit of a pickle, but you can get out of this with your head held high, right? You can find out for yourself. There's no shame in being manipulated by a narcissist, right? Chris is the narcissist. You may be one too, but we'll have to wait and see. Get tested. You might not be one. Fingers crossed for that one, right? But Chris Ingham definitely is a narcissist, and he will twist things in his favor always, right? Just look at the situation, read and listen to what I've said, and then go and do your own research, right? Look it up, read about it, ask questions, ask professionals their opinion, right? Don't just take what Chris is telling you, right? Because even if Chris has had advice from professionals, which is, you know, has he? Don't know. But even if he has, I promise you, or I guarantee, you've not been party to these appointments. Notice how Chris Ingham's name is all over the insolvency papers. Where's your name on that, Sarah? Don't they need a double signature? Is he actually taken? Are you an active part in this company, right? Because he was sat in these interviews, these meetings with the insolvency people and everything. He was there. Where were you? That would be my question. Where were you when he was being told what he was told? Because I guarantee he's come back to you and given you a skewed version of events, right? He'll have said something along the lines of, well, it's just standard practice. Sarah, you don't need to be a part of this. It's okay. You go play with the kids and their abacuses and whatnot, right? And he's come back to you afterwards and said, oh, it's okay. It's all sorted. I've signed it, and, you know, away we go, right? And yet, and you will have taken that as read. All right. Oh yeah. Thanks, love. That's great. Let's move on. So yeah, do that. That would be my advice to you. But let's continue to see what else was said, because Sarah was a little bit, you know, a little bit nasty to me. I'm not going to be nasty to her. As I've said, I'm giving her advice, right? So this person replied and said, she's probably been watching that Raccoon troll. Anybody who believes what he says wants their head tested. Really. I'm not giving any lies, though. That's the thing. I'm actually backing up everything I say with actual evidence and proof. So I'm not quite sure why I'm not to be believed. Anyway, Sarah replied, is he still around? Jeez, I thought he'd have been bored by now. What a life, hey? As if you didn't know I was still around. What the hell? Your lovely husband just mentioned me in a comment the other day. You know, of course you know I'm around. Right. So that person replied back to her and said, I was watching one of your vlogs yesterday and one of his came on straight after. I didn't realise as he used so much of your actual content. I do that. I'm not, you know, I'm not ashamed to say it. I do it, you know. Editing boring shit. Right. Till I heard his awful voice jump scare me. It's the awful voice. That's harsh. That is harsh. Alright, I'm not going to lie. Harsh. I was busy cleaning up after tea, so I wasn't paying attention. Fair to say, I made sure his videos never pop up again. Hate the man. Why do you hate me? Hate is a strong word. Like, all I'm doing is showing you why the Inghams are problematic, and I'm not saying it out of malice, right? I'm saying it because the things that they do are problematic. The things that they do are wrong, and you're choosing to turn a blind eye, which makes you wrong too. And Sarah replied, "What an absolute loser." Oh, Sarah. Oh, that's hurt me deeply, on a deep level. That has. It's really hurt me. After all this, I've been trying to help you in this video. This is an educate Sarah Ingham video, right? And yet you turn around and say that to me. You know, fortunately, I'm the bigger man here. I am, right? I know you're not used to big men, but there you go. I want you to understand exactly what's going on, and I urge you to do your own research. Look at what is going on, right? Don't just listen to Chris. If you turn around to me and say, I haven't listened to Chris, I've gone to an independent, non-Chris verified professional, asked their opinion, they've told me this and this, and that is how it is, I will trust you a lot more, right? If you turn around and say, well, I've been making dinner and Chris was in this meeting and yeah, Chris came out and he told me this, and I was like, yeah, all right, then let's get on with life and shut those stupid trolls up, shall we? Yeah, that's not the way to go about business, is it? I'm telling you that this is verifiable information taken off public record, right? And you are telling me that all that is wrong just because you know all about business and we don't. That's your stance on it. But don't take that stance. Learn. Otherwise you're going to get yourself into a lot of hot water, more so than you already are. So, everybody, if you have appreciated this video, please give it a massive thumbs up, comment all of your thoughts about it down below, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're going to carry on exposing these and carry on talking about this situation because it's rumbling on. There's so much to talk about. If there's anything you want to know or anything you don't understand, please ask and I will try to explain. So until next time, don't be Chris and Sarah Ingham. It's not a good life. Take care. Bye bye.